Welcome to the Virtuology series. In this episode on the foundations of Virtuology, you are going to find out what the three pillars are on which success and economy are based, where the source of all knowledge is, the 5 values that are key to overall well-being, as well as how to achieve balance and excel in all endeavors of life. Most economies in the world are knowledge-based. Knowledge is widely regarded as the driver of productivity and economic growth. Also, most people base their own success on knowledge, thus invest many years and even funds in education. In all fairness, knowledge is not the same as truth or wisdom, and is often outdated or even false, and much of it is actually useless and impractical. A theory is quite different from practice. However great, formal education is overrated. Most things taught in schools are not useful at all. On the other hand, the things that are actually useful are often not taken seriously because they are not part of formal education. Education comes from the two Latin words educare and educere. Educare means to train or to mold with outer resources, whereas educere means practically the opposite, to educe or draw out that which lies within. So it is meant to be a push and pull dynamic. However, most of our education today bases itself on the molding or pushing part, neglecting the extracting or pulling one, which is equally important. Thus most countries have an unbalanced education system that serves the short-sighted rulers, not so much the students and the public. We are not taught to think for ourselves, but rather to think like other people. We all come in this world with innate knowledge, talents and virtues, but educational systems treat us as a tabula rasa, or a blank slate that needs to be filled with data. Virtuology, on the other hand, is not here to fill you up with yet more data, but instead to balance your previous education with the educare part. Meaning, this program is here to draw out the dormant qualities in you, your superpowers. In other words, Virtuology doesn't provide mere education, but education. At this point, we make an important appeal to use all our content to learn through insight rather than through collecting information. Validate all this data with your innate, subtle devices such as conscience, intuition or gut feeling, sixth sense, instincts and such, while making sure you don't listen to your biased and rowdy ego, which uses the partial features of reason and logic to divide and narrow-mindedly point out only one side of a case. You become enlightened through a change of perception and paradigm, which is done through raising your consciousness by using your virtues, as we are about to show you how. All knowledge doesn't come from outer experience or perception, namely education. There is a greater, higher knowledge that can be acquired or accessed without studying, as intuitive people do it. This is a knowledge across the board of geniuses such as Plato, with his notion of the human mind as an entity that pre-existed somewhere in the heavens before being sent down to join a body here on earth. Socrates, known as one of the wisest men ever lived, was not teaching by telling but by questioning. Leonardo da Vinci believed knowledge was not in the books and schools, but the source of all true knowledge is in nature. Thomas Hobbes had a viewpoint of human nature in which humans are endowed with inherent mental content. Tesla believed that instinct is something which transcends knowledge that we obtain from a core which he called ether. Einstein believed that imagination is more important than knowledge, and that there is a unified field, a single fundamental field consisting of all fundamental forces of nature and elementary particles, including all data. Carl Gustav Jung believed in the collective unconscious. a bottomless subconscious pool of all the shared experience of the human race, a database comprising all the information ever available to human consciousness, and many more. This knowledge that can be accessed intuitively or subconsciously is also known in Hinduism as the Akashic Records, an etheric compendium of all knowledge and history. Let there be no confusion. The source of knowledge, power, and success is not out there, but in here. Everything is contained in the omnipresent ether and light as all colors of the rainbow, and this ether and light are within everyone and everything, so there is no need to receive it. Therefore, it is not a matter of receiving knowledge from some external database, but recognizing that you are part of it and that it is part of you, and simply accepting it. Important evidence against the tabula rasa model of the mind comes from behavioral genetics, which indicates strong genetic influences on personal characteristics such as IQ, alcoholism, gender identity, and other traits. That mind is not born as a blank slate, but with biological mechanisms, is validated also by cultural universals such as emotions and virtues. Truth be told, most highly educated people are not successful and live in debt. What's more, with such knowledge-based economies, the world has shaky foundations, causing many cultures to undergo collapse, crisis, and unstable economy, with most people living in debt or struggling. We have to ask this question: how come that with all the great knowledge used by the educated professionals, experts, specialists, academics, intellectuals, and other highly educated citizens occupying the highest municipal, governmental, and corporate positions, nevertheless, most countries are in debt or even in crisis? How come most of the world's highly educated people live in debt and constant struggle, are neither truly successful nor fulfilled, and rarely in a state of well-being? On the other hand, there are a lot of people who did not graduate from a college, but their standard of living is much higher than of those with higher education. That leaves us with the question of whether knowledge is really the basis for prosperity. Is success really based on knowledge? Surely the right knowledge is important, but is it more important than anything else? Is it more important than virtues? There is a collapse, crisis, and unstable economy in any country or organization whenever success is based on knowledge rather than virtues. Knowledge as a main or sole foundation doesn't have the power to sustain any economy. Virtuology model of preventing and overcoming any crisis, as well as for sustainability, development, and prosperity, is that economy, society, and the success of organizations and individuals should be based on at least 3 pillars, not just one: knowledge, skills, and virtues, with emphasis on the virtues. In the knowledge-based economy, the missing foundations are the virtues. They should form the basis, not only additional bricks or tools to build our success. What's the use of all the knowledge in this world if you do not cultivate certain virtues to use your knowledge properly? Virtues such as love, wisdom, integrity, creativity, innovativeness, responsibility, diligence, initiative, perseverance, authenticity, self-discipline, honor, faith, gratitude, etc. Marginalizing and disregarding virtues leads to corruption, irresponsible behavior, misconduct, fraud, greed, laziness, and similar destructive flows that bring about failure and suffering, even among the most highly educated individuals, such as experts and specialists. The fiasco of many of the most prominent figures of our societies, as reported in the daily news, is always due to the neglect of virtues, allowing greed, corruption, and lust to take their toll. The knowledge upon which an economy is based is in fact information. not the truth. There is a difference between information and truth, even if the information is true. Having information or knowing the facts is not equivalent to knowledge, because the facts are not always right or sufficient and are often misleading. Everything is relative but the truth. So the knowledge too is relative, as it depends on a series of factors. The indirect or transferred knowledge we receive through other people and the media is not the same as the real truth about reality or direct or original knowledge we receive by, say, elevated consciousness, conscience, intuition, instincts, grand ideas, inspirations, and imagination. The true knowledge comes through visceral perception rather than intellectual. Thus, to achieve both personal and social well-being, we shouldn't aspire to and build our society and economy on knowledge, but on truth or the virtue of wisdom. Even the truth is often compromised due to a variety of interpretations, perceptions, and contexts. Many people seek truth in the Bible, Quran, Vedas, and other religion scripts and books in general. Most artists and geniuses find truth in imagination. Most scientists, on the other hand, seek truth in their labs. Generally, they see the truth in what can be proved and measured. Historians derive truth from past events, and so on. Different people and cultures have different sources of truth, and even different truths. However, although there is no consensus on what truth is and what or where its source is, there is no denying that it comes through virtues such as wisdom, awareness, reason, intelligence, rationality, prudence, and openness, which verifies that virtues are a mandatory pillar of success and well-being. Let us mention here a quote from Nikola Tesla. "But instinct is something which transcends knowledge. We have undoubtedly certain finer fibers that enable us to perceive truths when logical deduction or any other willful effort of the brain is futile." One of the greatest scientists of all times, Nikola Tesla, made a case for impulses coming from instincts and imagination as opposed to reason as the means to shaping destiny, as confirmed by another of his quotes. "Our first endeavors are purely instinctive, prompting of an imagination vivid and undisciplined. As we grow older, reason asserts itself and we become more and more systematic and designing. But those early impulses, though not immediately productive, are of the greatest moment and may shape our very destinies." Another one of the greatest minds, Leonardo da Vinci, figured knowledge was not in the books and schools, and he said, "Nature is the source of all true knowledge. She has her own logic, her own laws. She has no effect without cause, nor invention without necessity." And let's not forget what one of the wisest men in the history of mankind, Socrates, said, "To know is to know that you know nothing. That is the meaning of true knowledge." The fact that real knowledge is not to be found in schools and books is evident throughout nature and all its non-educated but intelligent creatures and creations. For instance, did you know that bees know how to build a hive, whereas even the best human experts can do it? Without the knowledge of mathematics and physics, without a degree in engineering or architecture, bees succeed in something that the whole humankind cannot: to construct a pot that could hold 2 kilograms of honey using only 40 grams of wax. Without instructions and consultation, without much discussion, guiding themselves solely on their instincts, they managed to bind geometrically unbelievably exact hexagonal cells. If it was not for that, the honey would spill over. And they even do it in the dark, and only with the material they produce themselves, the wax. Isn't that amazing? Nobody thinks about it. We just take it for granted, but it is fascinating what they know. The same goes for all the other Earth's creatures. We all have all the knowledge we need at our disposal without needing to learn anything. We are all born with all the knowledge we need for successfully fulfilling our individual missions in life. This knowledge is available to us by tuning in to our higher self, to our soul, which conveys knowledge through intuition, conscience, visions, dreams, the sixth sense, instincts, inspirations, ideas, imaginations, coincidences, signs, etc. We are free to build on that through education, but in truth, it's all about allowing the knowledge, about getting into alignment with the source of knowledge, the all-knowing higher power. When we open ourselves to the source of all knowledge, to the omniscient higher power, we are guided and given all the ideas and inspirations we need to follow in order to fulfill our visions or missions and so to thrive. As advanced kinesiologists and many other scientists and metaphysicists claim, all knowledge is coded in our body, in our cellular memory, and in the ether that envelops our body. So instinctively and intuitively we know everything, and this knowledge can easily be tapped into by a variety of means such as meditation, but also by testing a muscle response to questions as per kinesiology. Our body is strong when the answer is affirmative and weak when it is negative. But there is a catch. To be able to perceive the right or true answer or knowledge, you need to cultivate a virtue. That is, you need to raise your consciousness to a higher positive mode. More on that we will reveal in the video on consciousness calibration or virtuification. In summary, as all the greatest minds of our history claimed, the true knowledge is not in the books, but in an omniscient source in nature that we can tap into not by learning or reasoning, but by perceiving it through connecting with our nature, that is our consciousness, through intuition, a gut feeling, sixth sense, instincts, inspiration, ideas, imagination, visions, conscience, etc. The point is, the knowledge that is the base of an economy and any success should not be reduced to the facts gathered from books and teachers, nor should it be acquired by sole reasoning and memorizing, but it should be primarily gained by raising consciousness and awareness, visceral perception, and virtues. In other words, true knowledge is based on virtues of understanding, awareness, wisdom, resourcefulness, curiosity, open-mindedness, broad-mindedness, and such. Therefore, since true knowledge is based on virtues, then the economy as well as the whole of society should be even more based on virtues. The success of an economy, as of anything else, is not achieved by one key factor alone, but rather by a combination of knowledge, skills, work, experience, systems, technology, communication, relations, unity, quality, low cost, resources, marketing, innovation, leadership, etc., all of which bring value only when they are based on virtues. Stating that economy and success are based on knowledge or education, it undermines other aforementioned basic factors, but since virtues underlie all of them, it is fair to say that virtues are the most essential factors of advanced economies and societies, as well as of success at large. We say all factors are equally important, but if we have to single one out, let it be virtues rather than knowledge from now on. We paid our dues to knowledge. It is time for us to pay our dues to virtues now. Let's start a new cycle in history, a new renaissance. Virtues have played a vital role throughout history, but it is time to fully acknowledge and take advantage of them so that as a virtue-based society and economy we can advance to a new level of existence, the one with higher consciousness and greater powers. The highest regard for education is ungrounded because, as everyone can witness, countless highly educated people live miserable lives, whereas countless college dropouts live a prosperous life. Of course, there are successful people among both demographics, which accounts for the fact that education is not a determinant of success. On Wikipedia, there is a list with all the quotes from renowned people who were against education, such as Cicero, Agatha Christie, Alexandre Dumas, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Erich Fromm, Goethe, Victor Hugo, George Bernard Shaw, Leo Tolstoy, Oscar Wilde, Baruch Spinoza, and others. There you will find the quotes in favor of education unsurprisingly coming from Stalin, Mussolini, and George W. Bush. Elsewhere you can find a list of the successful college dropouts. It is too long to be presented here, but it is available on the net for further proof that education is not the key to success. One of the greatest college dropouts, Einstein, said that he credited his discoveries to imagination, intuition, and inspiration, and not to knowledge or education. He went as far as to say that education is what remains after one has forgotten everything he learned in school. And also, I am what I am not because of education, but despite it. As you know, Einstein also said that imagination is more important than knowledge. Some might argue that, but only until we ask this: important for what? Context is the key. Sometimes imagination is more important and sometimes knowledge is. For Einstein, who was breaking new grounds, sure, imagination was more important than knowledge, as it is for all innovators, inventors, artists, geniuses, and the likes. But if you're a surgeon just about to perform a surgery, of course your knowledge is then more important than imagination. Also, if you are a lawyer standing in front of a judge and jury, your knowledge comes handier than imagination, no doubt. And if you're a student who is taking an exam, knowing your stuff is the ticket. However, there will be no surgeons, no lawyers, and no students if someone long time ago didn't imagine founding hospitals, courts, and schools. Consider that. We take these inventions for granted nowadays, and many of the things are common now, but it didn't used to be like that. We build airplanes with knowledge nowadays, but to make the first one, it took imagination. Without someone going beyond the reasonable and beyond what was known at the time, we would not have any airplanes or any other great inventions. So, imagination is indeed more important than knowledge for creating and manifesting new things. Thoughts create things. Thoughts construct reality. Speaking of which, the surgeons, lawyers, and students perform much better if they use their imagination, visualizing their goals. Knowledge and imagination don't exclude each other, they rather complement each other. And the comparison is not to say one is worthier than the other, but to give imagination its rightful place, given that it is undervalued compared to knowledge. Facts and ideas are dead in themselves, and it is the imagination that gives life to them. Imagination or imaginativeness is a virtue, as you know, and in more general terms, it is more important than knowledge for progress because knowledge is limited to all we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the unknown, the entire world of possibilities. Knowledge facilitates continuity, while imagination facilitates change. So, for any man and economy that wants to advance, they need to value imagination over knowledge. This by no means means that knowledge needs to be degraded, but that imagination, along with all the other virtues, needs to be upgraded in the minds of all men. There is a ceiling to men's achievements when they act from knowledge, but none when they act from imagination. By using our imagination, we take a step beyond what we know. We don't limit ourselves to what we know or to what is known. We are open to see alternatives and possibilities unknown to reason, and so we draw to us what we need to reach our goals or visions. Detached from three-dimensional reality and diving into the higher dimensions of reality, imagination becomes the tool for manifesting the imagined scenarios. Imagination is key to the creativity needed for innovation and progress. All advancements require someone to think outside the box and create something new and extraordinary, regardless of whether any hard facts are supporting their idea. In terms of progress, imagination has more value also because it creates rather than just recreates things. Evolution comes through imagination rather than knowledge. Every new thing had to be first imagined by someone, and all the imagined things were usually not based on knowledge but opposed it, challenged the known, so you can see that in many ways knowledge can be even an obstacle to advancement. Most breakthroughs in human developments, if not all, came through so-called crazy ideas that were not based on knowledge but went against it. More often than not, the knowledgeable people have been opposing and ridiculing all the revolutionary and controversial ideas at first, and even went as far as to prevent them from manifesting. As any successful mavericks will tell you, as a rule, their out-of-the-box ideas were initially dismissed as speculative or abstract, to say the least. So just think how many great progressive ideas were nipped in the bud just because they didn't suit the mainstream knowledge of the time and because their creators were too meek to follow it through. Conventional knowledge can indeed be a hindrance to progress. So if we continue to base our economy on knowledge, we are actually slowing its progress. That is why we need to have a virtue-based economy. An advanced economy employs knowledge by all means, but it doesn't base its progress on the incomplete, constrained, regulated, and often biased or subjective data, also known as knowledge, neither on any other limited resources. For their impact, progressive ideas depend on being heard, seen, and understood within a cultural context. When a society values generally accepted knowledge, exalted as formal education, culture, or tradition, more than creativity, innovation, and progress, visionary innovators feel under threat, intimidated, and unappreciated, not to mention their financial strains due to lack of support. This needs to change. It starts with a paradigm shift in which we evolve from knowledge-based to a virtue-based society and economy. This calls for re-evaluating our values so that virtues are at least as valued as knowledge. Virtues need to be a part of formal education, as much as knowledge is. That is why we designed the Virtuology program, which is beyond being a study on virtues, as it offers practical guidance for actual activation and cultivation of each virtue, as well as the activation of non-virtues, otherwise known as flaws, wrongdoings, faults, weaknesses, vices, sins, defects, shortcomings, or any other corruption of the virtues. Also, virtues should be required from employees as much as knowledge and experience, if not more. CVs should include the virtues which the applicant exemplifies the most. Human resources staff could see then if they match the ones required for the job. For all of you who have dedicated your lives to acquiring knowledge and education, Obviously, it may be hard at first to make this paradigm shift. Your ego will find all kinds of reasons to resist it, but if you are curious and open-minded enough to simply go through this program further, you will be informed about nature's universal law of resistance, which will clarify the downsides of resistance and compel you to allow this paradigm shift for your own good. Like it or not, the old school thinking will get you nowhere in a modern, fast-changing economy. In the old days, the key to success was hard work, but now we know better. We have machines for that. So the key then became working smart. Therefore, we got smarter, more educated. It worked for a while, but now, among countless other highly educated guys and smart technology, being smart is not a winning ticket any longer. Just look at the likes of Kardashians and Paris Hilton, as well as countless other big-shot college dropouts who make fortunes of their virtues, whereas highly educated teachers earn peanuts. You might snort at it, thinking it is a screwed-up world we are living in, but you'd be wrong. The world is fine. The world is fine. Only your worldview might be distorted so last century. Nowadays, it counts what you are, more than what you know. Nothing wrong with that. It's a new world, so you better move on, go with the times, focus on being rather than knowing. What you are is not what you pretend to be, unless you're an actor or something like that. You get successful by being the best version of yourself. Not better than others, and not like others or something you are essentially not, but just your greatest self. And the way to do it is by capitalizing on your virtues. Authenticity is a virtue that will get you places, but before you can take advantage of it and monetize it, you need to figure out who you really are and what are you here for. We can help you with that. It is a whole subject on its own in our Virtuification program, so if you are up for that, feel free to take advantage of it. There are countless virtues that make you who you really are, your greatest version of you. Each of us can take a pick of virtues that best serve our individual missions in life. We don't need to activate all of the virtues, but we surely need a bunch of them to make it in this life and have fun with it. You've got to have fun, otherwise it is not worth it. The Schuman Declaration, upon which the European Union was founded, proposes unity and solidarity as the means of peace and development. It laid out that economic unification fosters economic growth, as it contributes to raising living standards and promoting peaceful achievements. Similar ideas of the United Front are declared by governments of most countries in the world. The concept of unity and oneness is indeed the highest and most powerful one for any kind of success. We'd like to add that to truly prosper and live in peace, we all need to primarily focus on cultivating virtues, both as individuals and as nations. Living a nice and meaningful life in the modern world involves composing a life narrative that translates virtues into proper, suitable action. For sustaining peace, we surely need unity, rather than division or separation, though not just the one that is reduced to removing borders and fusion of markets, but also the unity in spirit. By promoting and cultivating virtues, unity is organically achieved on all levels. Organic unity is possible only through the rise of virtues. Peace and prosperity are a natural outcome of a virtue-based society. All in all, we need a virtue-based economy. In the light of global economic, ecological, and cultural changes, it becomes clearer that the old systems are not that effective any longer, and that to achieve prosperity, we need to keep up with the times and adapt to the new concepts of acquiring the required competencies. In the modern world, the outdated formal education is not enough to equip us for success. Therefore, it must be enhanced with informal and self-education. In the era of increased individualization of society, education is increasingly becoming the responsibility of the individual, for which Virtuology is an excellent support. Contemporary education lacks explicit attention to virtue. To address this gap, the Virtuology program situates virtue at the center of its educational model. Formal education provides general and theoretical knowledge. Everyday life requires more. It requires practicality, certain skills, all kinds of virtues, knowledge of human values, healthy and constructive habits, and so on. Through formal education, we get mostly knowledge and some skills. Through upbringing, the school of life, and informal education, we normally develop some virtues and skills. Unfortunately, nowadays most people marginalize the virtues. They regard knowledge, talent, skills, technologies, and systems at the expense of virtues. To avoid building these existential pillars in a nonchalant manner or by default, we have created the Virtuology program as a support system for personal development of socio-emotional competencies, boosting the necessary virtues and related skills. The Virtuology program is a response to the gap that exists between the theory and practice. Virtuology is a course in virtues and related matters with a holistic approach to knowledge acquisition, where the emphasis is on learning, not on teaching. We take that back. The emphasis is not really on learning either, because if we are to go with Plato and countless other agreeing luminaries, we are immortal souls that lived before birth, so all learning is just recollection or anamnesis. On that note, our emphasis is to remind you, to bring awareness and inspire you to activate and cultivate your inborn mighty virtues. There's really nothing to learn, nothing to know. It is all about being all you can be, in tune with your core, your soul, your consciousness. Socrates claimed that he knew nothing, which is why the Greek Delphic oracle pronounced him the wisest among men. His central belief was that virtue is knowledge, in contrast to many others then and now who believe that data is knowledge. In alliance with some of the wisest souls in human history and present, we are here to tell you how important and valuable it is to use your virtues in any undertakings, private or professional. It is virtues, not just knowledge and skills, that make us successful and happy. To most people, learning is nothing else but memorizing, and they use their brain merely as a tool to memorize, sort, and recall data. For them, the brain is just a keeper and distributor of knowledge and information. The brain of highly developed people, on the other hand, is engaged in more important things than memorizing. For them, learning means picking what is required at a given moment. For them, the brain is more of an antenna than an archive. With such a receiver, they tune in into the true knowledge that is all around us in ether, expressing itself in many forms but originating in light. This knowledge is not limited to what one has learned in this life so far, but is infinite. When we manage to tune to that infinite source of knowledge, we become not only omniscient, but omnipotent as well. And the way to achieve that, to tune into that all-knowing, almighty matrix, is through certain virtues. By cultivating virtues, we raise our consciousness. As Nikola Tesla said, Perhaps in most people, the brain is a keeper of knowledge about the world and the knowledge gained through life. My brain is engaged in more important things than remembering. It is picking what is required at a given moment. Sometimes all it takes to use something, such as virtues, is to become aware of its value. But then again, most of the time, we humans do need more incentives in form of inspiration, reminding, enlightening, and so on. This is what Virtuology will do for you. It will empower you in that it will prompt you to realize more and more the power of your virtues, and so get you to actually cultivate them, all for the purpose of reaching your full potential and as such to achieve lasting success in all your doings. The realization that the road to success is indeed paved with virtues and not so much with knowledge and skills as you were taught to believe, at first it creates a paradigm shock. Your mind takes it as an attack. It violates your belief system and it may even insult your intelligence. Who dares to devalue holy knowledge and sacred education, right? Even though the mind resists it, the heart and soul embrace it fully. If you are still resisting it, it means you are guided by your mind, not by your heart and soul. As in the case of any major breakthroughs, an expansion of our awareness of the workings of the universe not only allows but demands a recontextualization of our worldview. Few in history have gotten far by attempting to contextualize and insert nuance against formal education. By no means are we ever attempting to demean education, as we are aware of its many qualities and as we are aware of the pointlessness of resisting anything. Virtuology is about giving virtues its rightful place in the context of success and well-being. We know that for personal happiness and success, the fulfillment of only one aspect of our life is not enough. It is necessary to excel in most of them, if not all of them. A person who has a very successful career and a high income but poor health and major issues in relationships has no peace of mind, no real freedom, and not enough free time for family and friends. We cannot call such persons successful and happy, of course. Well-being, as in all-around success and happiness, consists of at least 5 values, which are health, psychological and physical, relationships, interpersonal, family, romance, business, friendships, etc., wealth, financial, material and spiritual wealth, freedom, free will, choices, and peace, spiritual, emotional, with others, national, etc. Balance and harmony. To achieve lasting happiness and success, we have to understand the law of polarity, be stable and balanced between the opposite poles within ourselves, as well as between the bipolar tendencies, such as the material and spiritual. A person who is out of balance cannot achieve lasting spiritual or material well-being. Those seeking only material achievements and thereby neglecting their spiritual side will never accomplish the fullness of life, and they will therefore not experience complete happiness and success. Likewise, those who focus mainly or even only on the spiritual aspect of their life, neglecting and even criticizing the material world, are also unbalanced and unable to have peace and harmony in the material world in which they live. They are often experiencing financial difficulties and depending on other people's or states' charity. For every ascent and flight, we need both wings, material and spiritual. Using only one is either difficult or impossible. We could compare it with the fact that for an easy stride through life we need both feet. We could use only one, but it is harder. Thus, use both of your wings or both of your feet and everything will be fine. How to shine. If you want to excel in life and have a value of a gem, so to speak, then you need to, just like a diamond, cut and polish all your sides, physical, emotional, and mental. Polishing one side only, as in a diamond, won't make you shine. To shine in life, we have to polish all of the sides of our nature. 1 kilo of diamonds is worth 1,000 times more than a kilo of gold. What makes a diamond valuable is its durability, brilliance, and beauty, which is obtained by a certain way of skiving. Smoothness and symmetry of a diamond affect its brilliance, just like with humans. This is achieved by the proper and deep skiving followed by polishing. In order to shine, we need to, therefore, polish all 3 major sides of our nature, to nurture the body, enhance mental abilities, and stabilize our emotions. What is the symmetry to diamonds? It is the balance to humans, the balance of all our main facets, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Our soul is the core of our being, who we truly are, and should balance our physical, intellectual, and emotional qualities. And to do that, we should allow our soul to be the master of our being. By relying too much on the intellect, surrendering too much to emotions, or giving too much attention to the physical, you neglect your soul and prevent it to express itself fully and provide you with a lasting well-being, your natural state of being. If you still don't shine, it means you're still a diamond in the rough, raw or insufficiently refined. Your shine, your brightness or brilliance cannot come to the fore if any of the 3 facets of your being is in disharmony with the other 2. Therefore, there is a refining process which turns anyone into a real gem. Refining consists of mind reprogramming, cleaning the subconscious, resistance unleashing, awareness, emotion management, spiritual exercises such as meditation and prayer, light physical exercises, faith augmentation, soul frequency tuning, horizon broadening, and most of all, it consists of, well, let's call it virtuification, which stands for the process of activating and cultivating own inborn virtues. In other words, to shine like a diamond, you need to activate and cultivate your virtues. All these processes are taking place in your inner being so that they can refine you into becoming the best version of yourself and so achieve well-being. They have a force to build a character that is aligned with your life purpose or mission. Our thoughts have the power to lift us up or bring us down, strengthen or weaken us. The choice is up to us. You can allow others to shape you according to their visions, or you can shape your character and destiny to your own choosing. You can choose whether to be resentful or take the best out of life, to be a loser or to be a winner. You have the power to make the choice at all times. The problems arise only when you are disconnected from your source, the source of your strength and your happiness. Like any electrical device that is not plugged in, it has no power unless it is connected to an energy source. All potential is at your disposal. Plug in and everything will be great. Another metaphor. Just as a broken branch does not bear fruit, neither can we bloom or be fruitful as long as we are separated from our energy source. If your life is not what it should be, there is a simple reason for it. You are not in tune with nature, with your soul, with the universe. In other words, you are disconnected from your power source. Have you ever seen a detached branch bearing fruit? Of course not. Neither can we flourish nor bear fruit as long as we are disconnected from the higher power, from our energy source. Sometimes and somewhere we can achieve short-term success, but it will not take us far. Some aspects of life can even flourish, but it will not last. After all, of what use is a bed of roses in one area of life when in others there are only thorns? What good is all the wealth in the world when cancer is eating you away, or if love has turned its back on you? Therefore, you have to have it all to enjoy well-being. The way to achieve it is let your emotions, intellect, and physical senses to be governed by your soul. Polish all sides of your personality so that the light can shine through you and make you bright and brilliant as a diamond. Do it using virtues.